What's up, guys? Welcome back to the first part on what if Deku was in Fate's Day Night. Um, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of setup. I should probably make this part 0, but whatever. We're still jumping into the story anyway. So I'm gonna say thank you to FK. I can't read kanji. What looks to be worried face, and triple water. Night Breeze and Hard Steel, thank you all for joining this Discord server. And if you want to join the Discord server, link in the description down below. I chat on there, multiple people chat, and have fun. So if you think you would like to, be a part of that and come hang out with us over there, then go ahead. Link in the description. So let's start this off. We open up with Izuku. Or not with Izuku, with a girl. This girl has brown hair and blue eyes. This girl was chanting something in German before mystical circles appeared. Of course, her chant got interrupted, causing for an accidental summon to occur. But we'll come back to that in a minute here. We then hop back in time by a lot. Like a lot. Back to the Age of Gods, where gods roamed the planet before having to go to the reverse side, where mana and mystery was abundant, and people could excel to greater heights than was originally known. Of course, everything originated from what most people call the root. Everyone has an origin and originate from it. Of course, multiple different timelines branch off from each other from connected points. No two stories will be the same. Over time, after events had occurred that forced the gods to go to the reverse side of the world, a side that was known for having an abundance of mana, the humans were still on the side that they are currently on. They were there to, keep prospering. Their main goal was to make it to the root to unlock true magic. Of course, it was unknown how or when they can unlock it, or how to achieve the root. Very few ever done so. So few that you could count all of them on one hand. Eventually, over time, in this world, magic slowly died off, becoming lesser known over the ages, until, by pure stroke of luck, humans somehow started to adopt magic even more than they were previously using, showing that their aptitude for magic was well beyond what most people thought was even possible. Humans showed the innate ability to constantly produce magic. It was weird because the magic now couldn't be as controlled. But of course, it seemed to be unique to the person. But not all humans got the ability to use magic, or what they now called to be quirks. Instead, some humans were born without it. We now meet a boy. This boy was an intelligent fellow for his age, very smart, and he always wanted a quirk, but he didn't have the ability to access one, to get access to it. Luckily for him, thanks for his excellent deeds, a man noticed him and helped the boy with his dream to become a hero. Of course, this dream helped him out a lot, even giving him a quirk like he wanted. The boy grew up and fought, a very valiantly fought, constantly facing opponents that were stronger than him, until he eventually reached the point when he got old. He slowly started to become less and less effective in fighting, so he decided to, well, hang up and put in up his cape. He ended up becoming a lot more akin to a retired hero that came out when he was needed, rather than to be actively someone who constantly fought. One day, while he was relaxing, he heard a voice that was pretty peculiar to him. He didn't know much about it. This voice, this unembodied voice, gave him a decision. He could join up forces with this body and work to better all of humanity, granting him what was akin to eternal life, allowing him to save and help more people, or he could decide against it. Izuku, being at an old age at this time, decided that he would take up the spirit's offer. This way, he ended up being known as the heroic spirit Izuku. Of course, over time, back to the girl who had just finished inciting her incantation, she ended up being kind of confused because the heroic spirit didn't show up. Then she remembered hearing the loud banging noise that happened earlier. She decided to go investigate it, only to find a man sitting there. The man didn't look any older than she was, maybe by 2 to 3 years. She figured that this was her spirit. The man asked, "Are you the one who summoned me?" The girl responded, "Yes." The man laughed once again, and then asked what her name was. He was curious to see what the name of his apparent master was. The girl ended up saying, "My name is Rin." The man laughed again until he said, "Izuku is my name. I also have the brawler classification." This confused her, because she hadn't heard of any type of class that was related to brawler. Izuku almost laughed at this before stating, "Don't worry about it. There are many secrets that everything else does not want to be shared." The woman, knowing that it was best not to pry into what appeared to be her spirit's veins, decided to listen to it for now. Izuku had a base gist of what the situation was. He knew that after he joined up under Gaia, which seemed to be a cosmic force that kept heroic souls around for assistance in helping people, he then noticed that he appeared to, have been able to be summoned. While being summoned, he also learned that he could manifest in a spirit or physical form. He still kept most of his memories, but he noticed that he was a younger age than what he was when he died, seeming to be in his prime rather than the original age that he was at, which was in his later years in life. Izuku decided to count this as a blessing for the time being. He then asked the girl, who was Rin, what she wanted to do. He knew that they were fighting in the Holy Grail War. Even though he didn't have a direct desire, he still understood the basis behind needing a desire or wanting a desire. Because wanting it or needing one can have your desire fulfilled in multiple different ways. Rin looked at Izuku, still confused about this apparent classification he had, which was brawler. So Rin decided to question him. "So you're a brawler. right? And Izuku was your name? I've never heard of any legend by the name of Izuku. And Izuku shrugged his shoulders, stating that she probably wouldn't hear of his legend because he comes from a different timeline. It was common knowledge in the Maid Association that there were multiple timelines, but it was uncommon to have a being from another timeline be summoned to their own. Well, or at least one that was sparse enough to not be even heard of in our timeline. Was uncommon to say the least. This caused Izuku almost to laugh again, even though he did notice that his body seemed to be in his near 17 to 16 age. So he looked a lot younger. He still was pretty well off in his knowledge about everything else, and his tactical awareness. He knew that this fight was going to be a bloody one. Not saying that he didn't experience bloody fights over his years of working as a hero, but he knew this one was probably going to be one of the worst ones ever. None of these people were outright villainous, except for the ones that chose to torture and manipulate people. He sighed before he eventually stood up and apologized for breaking her roof. Of course, Rin just kind of shrugged it off at this point, understanding that he didn't choose to break her roof, so she figured that she wouldn't hold it against him for the time being. Well, I figured she could use it as leeway later on, just in case. Eventually, Izuku started to prepare his gear. Of course, Rin as well had also prepared her gear. They weren't heading out just yet. The Holy Grail War hadn't started. So Izuku decided to start testing some fiends, but also informing Rin more of his background. He informed her that he came from a world where heroes were quite common, almost as common as anything else, and that there were villains that ran amok, and that it was the hero's job to, stop the villains. This caused Rin to give a kind of really look as Izuku shook his head up and down, stating that it wasn't uncommon for a hero to face off against a villain multiple times, especially seeing how most villains had the capabilities of using quirks. This confused Rin once again because she hadn't heard of quirks, which confused Izuku. Even though he had a base understanding of magic, it still shocked him that quirks were unknown of, or unheard of for that reasoning. Izuku shrugged his shoulders and decided not to go further into it, explaining that it was akin to a magic only a certain person could use. This caused Rin to have a somewhat of understanding but still confusing look about her. She didn't know what to make of her servant. It wasn't a saber, which is what she wanted, but it wasn't necessarily bad either. It was a rare situation where she didn't know if she disliked the servant she had or enjoyed it. Of course, Rin had him revert back into his spirit form, which Izuku obliged. We now cut over to a different man. This man had orange hair and blue eyes. He was known as Amelia. He was well known for certain fiends, but one of the main fiends he was well known of was being a selfless individual that constantly pushed to have everyone else be helped and helping everyone to the best of his capabilities. Even if he injured himself in the process, he didn't care for it, as long as he was able to help someone else. That day was quite a busy day for him. He ended up waking up quite early in the morning and did a multitude of things around his house. There were also some other girls located at the house as well. One being what could be counted as his guardian after his adopted father had died, and the other one being accounted as what could be classified most likely as akin to a childhood friend. Both were relatively well off, so it was all a nice peaceful time for them. Eventually, Amelia headed to school. He wasn't a part of the archery team, but he was originally prior hand. He had a friend there, and after school had ended, the friend had asked him to clean up the area located at the archery field. Usually, Amelia would say yes, but this time he had to say no, much to, of course, his friend's dismay. When his friend asked him why he had chosen to say no, he covered it up, stating that, well, for the time being, there was something he had to get to at his house. It was a very important matter to him, and that he couldn't put it off no matter what, even though this was kind of shocking to his friend. He had known Amelia to be, well, nothing more than a lapdog, doing anything he asked without any return needed. So he always kind of treated Amelia as such, but now hearing that Amelia had something better to do than help him, it irked him the wrong way. He decided to let it go, and the rest of the archery team helped him clean up everything, so it wasn't like it mattered if Amelia did it himself. He just wanted to be a little bit lazy. So if you guys are wondering why I had that set up, was because Ren would have had to have called Amelia because, or Archer, as he was known as in the Fate Stay Night series, because of the amulet that she has, or the locket being directly tied to Amelia in the future. Oh yeah, spoilers if you guys didn't know that. Of course, eventually, Izuku showed up with Rin. Rin had felt that there was a weird feeling about the school. She couldn't put it into words just yet, but it was off-putting. Rin didn't call her servant by name commonly, referring to him as Brawler, even though he would constantly request that she referred to him as Izuku and not Brawler. She asked Izuku if he knew or sensed any mana signatures. Izuku did have the ability Danger Sense, which allowed him to, of course, sense danger when it comes at him, as well as Black Whip and Float, but he didn't sense anything at the current moment, other than, of course, the abundant menace and killing intent that was surrounded by the school at the time. But this was nothing new to Rin or him, so they both decided to not ignore it, but look into it better. Suddenly, while talking, a red spear appeared in front of Izuku, causing Izuku to jump back. He looked up to the man that was standing there. The man had a weird blue suit on, and smiled quite precariously, to say the least. Izuku noticed that the man was standing there, looking down at him and Rin. Izuku knew that this man wanted to fight. It was very obvious in the man's eyes that he hadn't come to chat peacefully, as much as Izuku would have liked that to be the case. Izuku clicked his tongue as he told Rin to get back. Rin, of course, scoffed at Izuku's words, but decided to listen to them for the time being. He quickly jumped up and, using Black Whip, tried to grab the spear out of the man's hand. The man, noticing that Izuku seemed to be able to be quite agile in the air, was kind of confusing. Then again, the man that he was fighting didn't even have a weapon. The Lancer scoffed. Huh. So, you want to fight me without a weapon? What's wrong with you? Izuku stayed tight-lipped before spouting back in his regular heroic tone. I don't need a weapon to fight. Unlike you, I use my fists. Huh? And what were those tentacles or whips you were using earlier? Izuku sighed before saying, that is one of my skills, called Black Whip. Oh, you must be pretty cocky if you're willing to expose your skills that way, replied the Lancer. Izuku sighed before looking back at the Lancer and stating, if you wish to harm my master, then I have no choice but to bring upon you pain and to bring you to justice in the quickest way possible. This caused Lancer to be kind of not in fear, but he could definitely sense that Izuku wasn't joking about his statements. He could feel the power radiating off the boy's body. And if that was any indicator of how strong the boy was, then Lancer knew that he was in a work of trouble. Lancer then asked Izuku what was his name. Izuku smiled at this, since he had realized that heroes and stuff weren't actually Fiend here, so giving out his name really didn't matter. He responded saying, I'm Izuku Midoriya, #1 hero in all of Japan. This confused Lancer heavily, because he didn't know that there was even a ranking system for heroes, but figured it was just something the person had said to, well, shake him up, of course. It wouldn't be the first time his enemies had said something ridiculous to cause him to feel, well, relatively shooken. But suddenly, just like that, Izuku quickly dashed over, moving more quickly than even most assassin spirits, which caught, well, the Lancer off guard. And then followed up with a quick punch in the gut. The Lancer coughed up blood before quickly jumping back. He realized that Izuku was not a threat to take lightly. Even though he didn't know the class of the spirit he was fighting, he knew that it wasn't something that would be so easily done without an issue. He then quickly said, you're lucky that I'm only here to scout you guys out today, or this battle would have gone very differently. This confused Rin and Izuku, figuring that it was going to have to be a fight to the death, but hearing this man's words, Izuku understood that this man was going to do something that he always hated. This man was going to just teleport away and not actually stay and finish the fight he started. Even though Izuku didn't classify himself as a full-on battle junkie, he definitely liked the thrill of the fight. He liked the thrill of being able to save someone while fighting someone else. It definitely gave him a sort of spark, to say the least. Rin tried to quickly chase after the man, but Izuku shook his head no. When Rin asked why he wasn't going to go after him, and even was about to use a command seal, Izuku told Rin to calm down. Think of this situation here. If we chase after the man, the only thing that's going to happen is us rounding up into a trap. He might be a Lancer class, but that doesn't mean he isn't intelligent enough to set up a trap. Running full carelessly into battle without preparing anything will very well off lead to your death. Izuku had learned this over many, many years. He knew very well that charging into battle could easily kill some of your closest friends and companions. That's why he warned Rin so seriously about the situation that they were in. Rin knew to take Izuku's words to heart, Kinda surprised her, though, how vindicated Zuko was when it came to them not directly confronting the enemy. Even Rin could sense it. Izuku was a little bit of a battle junkie. She eventually scoffed and flipped her pigtails back. She then decided that it was time to go home, so Izuku reverted back to spirit form before heading out back to their mansion. Meanwhile, during this time, Emilia was inside his workshop where he practiced his magic. Reinforcement magic was what he practiced very commonly. He suddenly saw a thing glow next to him, a circle of sorts that looked to be for magic. Emilia didn't know what to do, but suddenly felt the urge to put his blood into it. So that's what he decided. He then chose to cut his arm, a very slight cut, and start pouring blood into the circle. This caused a blonde-haired woman with blue eyes to appear before him, asking him if he was her master, and if he was, then what faith that she shall have, and to swear loyalty to him. Emilia didn't understand everything at this point, but ended up saying that he was, as they then formed a pact right there. And that's where I'm going to leave this episode off, guys. I'm thinking about doing a ship for this one, so go down in the comment section down below and tell me who do you want shipped with Deku. Of course, this is more of a mature Deku, and I'm pretty sure I covered all the bases. Obviously, this isn't in like the actual canon of any of the shows or anything like that. This is mainly me trying to piece it together well enough with duct tape to hopefully make it so it's not confusing for people who are watching who haven't seen Fate Stay Night. But if you guys liked it, hit the like button, and if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, goodbye.